Hello everyone, and welcome to a new, but long overdue, it has to be said, series of videos where, as the title suggests, I will be doing mod reviews. Now, I feel it necessary to point out to begin with, this will not necessarily be only Skyrim mod reviews, but in all likelihood it will be mostly Skyrim mod reviews because there are a lot more Skyrim mods than there are others. However, in this series, basically, I am going to be reviewing different mods, some which I will be adding to my Let's Play series, and some which I'll be reviewing just for the sake of curiosity. I will also endeavour to take suggestions from people as to mods they'd like to see reviewed and had a look at, and basically I'm going to give you a breakdown of how each mod works, and show you all the different features of it, and then basically give you my opinion on what I think of it, whether it adds a lot to the game, its flaws, its pros, its cons, all that sort of thing. So to kick things off, and I do apologise by the way for my voice at the minute, I am suffering from an excruciatingly bad case of man flu. So if this is your first time to the channel, I apologise for this slightly subpar first impression, but never mind. So, today I'm kicking it off with two mods. These are two mods which people have been asking me to have a look at for quite a while, actually, as part of my Let's Play series, which, if you are unaware, I do Let's Plays, and you can find them on my channel. However, people have been asking me to have a look at these two for quite some time now, and I thought it was about bloody time I did. So that's what we're going to do today. We are going to be looking at two mods, Hunterborn and Equipping Overhaul. These are two mods I'm very interested in, and two mods which I'm potentially thinking about adding to my Let's Play series. So today we're going to examine them and have a look at them, with the help from my lovely, if somewhat slightly intimidating assistant Bertha here. So, the Equipping Overhaul. Well, first things first, Bertha here is, well, she's a character that likes to sort of go around fairly armed to the teeth. You will notice she has not one, not two, but 3 axes, because you can never have enough of those, right? In addition to a longbow, just for those rare occasions where your axe can't quite reach far enough. So she's quite fond of caving in people's skulls and all that sort of Nord stuff that Nords like to do. In fact, today she's especially grumpy on account of the fact that I believe she's suffering from a particularly bad case of ataxia, so there you go. Now, you will notice that she has a whole bunch of weapons equipped all at the same time, and that's pretty much what this mod does. It's quite intuitive and very, very non-intrusive. And really all it does is it displays weapons equipped on your character that you have in your favourites menu. So for example, as you can see here, I have the Ancient Nord Longbow, the Axe of Whiterun, and this Woodcutter's Axe here, all favorited. Now if I were to unfavorite the Woodcutter's Axe, for example, so if I go here, it's removed from the character, and if I favourite it again, it is equipped again. But you'll notice that the actual equipped weapon I have is the Axe of Whiterun. So that's pretty cool. It gives you this. It definitely gives us the impression that your character is lugging around a heck of a lot of equipment, and I quite like that, really. Perhaps your character uses a two-handed weapon mainly, but has a dagger as backup. If you favourite that dagger, they will have that dagger appear on their belt, as you would expect it to, as opposed to it mysteriously disappearing every time he equips his two-handed sword or something like that, or his bow or whatever. So it seems pretty self-explanatory, and it's a very simple addition. Though I'm sure it probably wasn't simple to mod in, I have to admit, but it's a fairly simple addition, and yet it adds quite a lot to the game, just for immersion's sake. Being able to see all those weapons you're lugging around with you is quite good. Now, obviously there are some limitations. Now, you can pretty much only have one weapon displayed in each visual slot, if you want to call it that. to take as an example of what I mean, right now she currently has the Axe of Whiterun equipped on her back. Now if I were to favourite the Ancient Nord Greatsword, you'll see that it's not. It hasn't appeared on her back with the Axe of Whiterun. However, if I were to unfavourite the Axe of Whiterun, it's still there. Because it's currently equipped on my character, because I'm an idiot. However, there we go. If I switch to my bow, make sure to, I think I need to unfavorite that, favorite it again, and yeah, there it is. You can see it on my character right now. If I equip that, she'll get it out, and she's got her sword, which she also likes to use for occasions when a big two-handed axe isn't quite fast enough. So there we go. Now, the same goes for, you know, side weapons as well. Unfortunately, as much as I would like it to be the case that if you had two sort of waist belt weapons like this woodcutter's axe here equipped, you know, favorited, they would appear on each side. So I could have the woodcutter's axe on her, you know, her right side there, and on her left side I could have a dagger. But fortunately, that's not the case. For example, if I were to favorite the pickaxe, it doesn't appear. So, you know, it does have its limitations, but, you know, I think they're fairly understandable, and I think they're probably pretty hard-coded kinds of limitations that really can't be worked around very much. But then again, what do I know? I'm not a modder. So, the mod does have one other feature, though, and this can be enabled and disabled at will. It's another immersion-related feature. It's worth pointing out that this can be enabled and disabled, however, because it could, I don't know, it could possibly annoy some people, and I haven't decided yet whether or not it would annoy me after a while. But basically, the way it works is this. For example, I've got my good old Ancient Nord Greatsword equipped. Let's hotkey that to 1, shall we? Now, say I'm actually, you know what? Never mind that. Let's equip my bow. Now, say I have got an angry bear charging towards me. So I fire a couple of shots at it with my longbow, but he's getting a bit damn close. I need to quickly switch weapons. Now, normally what I would do is just hit the hotkey button for my you know, for my sword. So let's do that right now. And she immediately draws the sword, but you'll notice she just dropped her ancient longbow because basically because she didn't sheath it before she got it out. I'm going to equip that again. Now this time I'm going to fire my arrow at the hypothetical charging bear. Very scary, isn't it? I'm going to fire it, and before switching over to my my sword, I'm actually going to sheath that, then switch to the sword and get the sword out. It takes a bit longer, but ultimately it's kind of more realistic and a bit more immersive. It's a feature that is going to be a love-hate kind of a thing. The initial novelty of it I quite like, but like I said, I haven't quite decided whether or not I would sort of keep this feature enabled, if you like. It's difficult to say at this point, but I do like it from a realism perspective. You guys who follow my Let's Play are probably aware that I'm all for realism when it comes to you know, realistic combat and stuff in this game. And the idea that you can just instantly switch between weapons and they instantly just, you know, resheath themselves in the blink of an eye just actually does seem a bit silly when you think about it. So this is actually quite a nice addition. Now you may be wondering, so what happens if I drop my weapon in the middle of a fight and then I've completely lost it? Like, I don't know where it is. Well, the mod has, handily enough, added in a feature that accounts for this. So, let's say I've dropped my sword for some silly reason. Bertha, why on earth would you do that? You've just lost 5 Nord points. But anyway, she's dropped her sword for some reason, and doesn't know where it is, because she's not the brightest tool in the box, even if she is the sharpest. So you've got a couple of options here, and you can enable and disable these in the mod configuration menu for this mod. This mod does have a mod configuration menu, as you can see. You can enable and disable the mod, and the features like the geared up feature, which is allowing you to display the favorited gear on your character. You can even assign a hotkey so you can quickly enable and disable that if you wish to. And then you have the realistic unequip setting, so you can obviously enable and disable it. But also you have these two options here. enable power, which gives you a power to quickly gather all auto-dropped gear at once, and a hotkey, which allows you to immersively search for auto-dropped equipment. And you may be asking, what does it mean by immersively, Dave? Well, it's quite simple, really. I've already set myself a hotkey. So let's say Bertha's wandering around, she's had a look around, she can't find a sword anywhere, and now she's beginning to panic. Don't worry, we'll hit the hotkey and she'll have a proper good serious look for it this time. Now, where did I drop that item? That's right, over there. That's right. Now, before this gets into slightly strange children's television program territory, which it's beginning to feel like a little bit here. It's a nice feature, isn't it? Basically, you press the button, you get a nice little animation where she's looking around for it, and then the character will turn in the direction of the item itself, and then you can just head off in that direction until presumably you find it. Or if you don't find it, then say she's a complete klutz and she's just walked straight past it and is wondering where the heck this sword is, you can just do it again. And hopefully, if she's got more than 2 brain cells to rub together... There we go, yeah, see, it's right over there. Now, if that's a little bit of a pain in the arse for you, then there is another option. Let's go ahead and equip our bow, shoot an arrow off in the direction of the Greybeards. Merry Christmas. And we'll get our sword out. Oh noes, we've dropped our bow. And we can't find it, and perhaps either you can't be bothered to use the hotkey function, or maybe you've been using the hotkey function and you still can't bloody find it. Maybe it's glitched through the terrain or something, and it's become, essentially irretrievable. Well, you have one other recourse. If you go to your magic settings, provided you've enabled this in the mod configuration menu, you can actually go onto here and you should be able to find a button, sorry, a power, gather items. So if we press this, the screen will go black for a second, and as you can see, she's now basically buggered off, and she's found it, and she's brought it back here. It appears to be floating in mid-air, but a little bit glitchy, but, what can you do? So there's that option as well, or you can simply just disable the equipment dropping feature as well. And the mod does have one other small feature, which is a welcome addition, I might add, which is this. If I can find it on my list of mods, I have far too many installed. There we go. No, that's an ant's blood. What are you doing, Dave? Equipping Overhaul. There we go. Lit torches. Basically, this you can enable it and disable it here, and you can have a hotkey for it as well. You also have this here, toggle between hotkey drop torches favouring equipped or unequipped torches. I still haven't quite figured out what that exactly means, but anyway, there it is. We don't really need a hotkey for this. But you can basically give it... I see what it means, right? You can basically drop... You have a hotkey for dropping your torch on the floor immediately. Say if you're in a darkened ruin, perhaps you're playing with some lighting mods that make ruins incredibly dark, and obviously you need to fight with a two-handed weapon, or perhaps you want to use your shield rather than just swinging a torch all over the place. You can press this hotkey to drop a torch. In fact, let's give it a try right now. And this can... This button here should basically... it allows the game to tell you to drop... When you press this button, if you have this enabled, it will drop one of the torches in your inventory that are unequipped and drop it lit. If you don't want to drop the one you're currently equipped with. Perhaps you're just trying to light up a cavern or something a little bit, so you want to go around dropping torches willy-nilly and keep the one you've got equipped. But for now, let's not have that enabled. So let's say we're in a darkened ruin, which we're not, but never mind. We're in a hypothetical darkened ruin. And let's equip our torch here. Now I should, if I press this button, there we go, torch dropped, no problem. Now I do not believe, and it would be interesting to test, in fact I will do this right now. Where is my... my torch has probably been unfavorited as a result of dropping it. That's something to bear in mind, by the way, because that torch was favorited. So let's say we've got our torch out now. The question is, does it drop automatically if I equip a two-handed weapon? Yes, it does. So if you've been using the Droplet Torches mod for Oblivion, for example, same principle applies here, just you have the added functionality of a button which allows you to drop a torch. Especially, I think it should even work when the torch isn't equipped. There we go. See, there we are. So that's a nice feature as well. So overall, not a bad mod, with quite a few very interesting and useful functions that all tie simply just well. It doesn't seem to be particularly buggy from the testing I've done, I think I would definitely consider adding it to my Let's Play. In fact, I probably will, after I've tested it a bit more with Bertha here. Bertha being the character that I generally test mods out with before I add them to my Let's Play save, just for the sake of stability. So I'll be testing that a little bit more, but from what I've seen so far, I quite like it. It has its limitations, obviously, and it can be a little bit glitchy in places like the floating longbow earlier, but it does deal with some of the problems that I initially thought it might have when I heard about the mod, like, for example, dropping equipment and not being able to find it again. It's really, really great that the mod maker did go to that extra effort, I think, to add functionality to retrieve lost items like that, because that would have been a very obvious and glaring flaw with this mod had they not included that. You know, it's just simply the fact that it's highly customizable, as you'd expect from a mod with a configuration menu that allows you to enable and disable the various features, and add hotkeys, because we PC gamers do love our hotkeys, don't we? So, there you go. That was the equipping overhaul. General impression so far seems to be very, very good, and I would highly recommend it if you're one of those people who's really into realism and immersion when it comes to what weapons and such they have equipped, and when it comes to combat. Like that. So, there we are. Now, moving on to the next mod I'm going to be reviewing today. So, Hunterborn, what does it do? Well, it basically completely overhauls the way you interact with wild animals in this game, in terms of how you, well, loot them, essentially. Previously, obviously in the vanilla game, I'm sure you understand how it works. You kill, say, a wolf, you activate its body, and then you loot the pelts or whatever that it was, that were sort of quote-unquote contained within it. They acted like items on the corpse of a dead bandit or something like that. And not that realistic, really. In real life, unfortunately, it doesn't work quite like that. In real life, you have to dress and prepare an animal you've killed, then you have to butcher it and skin it and all sorts of stuff like that. It's a very time-consuming and messy experience, really. So Hunterborn aims to sort of remedy this and bring some of the realism from hunting real animals in real life into this game. So here we are. We're just outside Iverstead at this little camp here. Don't mind the dead woodcutter over there. There was a small disagreement. The less said about it, the better. Luckily enough, however, we don't have to go hunting around for animals, because here's one I prepared earlier. Now, we will probably want to go over there, really, if we want to go and prepare this elk here to be butchered and so on and so forth, you know, next to the fire, so that we can actually see what we're doing and that sort of thing. So first things first, you'll notice when I activate the elk, it brings up a menu. Now, you still have this manual loot button here. This is here, I assume, for sort of debugging purposes, basically. But we're not going to be using that, and you can disable that in the mod configuration menu, which I'll show you a little bit later. But first, well, we want to move the elk, so we're going to pick it up. Now, as you can see, I'm carrying far too much to be able to run. It's worth noting that a male elk is not well, it's not something you put in your back pocket. It weighs 300 pounds. It's quite heavy. Animal carcasses tend to be quite heavy, so we're going to struggle over here over to the fireside. And then I think here's a good spot. We're going to drop the carcass. And plop, there it goes. So we've got our elk over here by the fire, and the dead woodcutter. Again, don't pay any mind. So the first thing we want to do, before we can do anything else, we're going to have to sort of prepare the animal. We need to field dress it, so that's what we're going to do. Now, by default, as you can see here, that takes a bit of time. A little bit of time has passed now. It's not immediately obvious since it's the middle of the day, but it is now 12:10 PM. Now that is, again, that's a customizable thing. You can choose whether or not that takes time or not. But anyway, we've done that now. So we have a few options. We can skin a pelt from it. We can harvest ingredients, which includes things like the antlers, bones, that sort of thing, and we can butcher meat. So I think first things first, we'll skin it. So we just got a ruined pelt. Let's have a look at that. Now we got a ruined pelt. Where are you? There it is. Now that's well, yeah, look at it. It's pretty useless. It's a ruined pelt after all. The reason for that is because we're not a very good hunter. Despite appearances, Bertha's pretty new at this. And she basically fluffed that up a bit, and she's ruined the pelts that she's managed to get from the creature. Now the reason for that is, like I said, she's rubbish at this, and here's the proof. Mod configuration menu, Hunterborn. There's a stats page here. Total cleans 1, skinning level, harvesting level, and foraging level. As you can see, this mod has its own sort of set of skills, and the more often you do these activities, basically, the more your skill will increase with them, and the quicker you'll be able to do it, and the more successfully you'll be able to do it. For example, at the minute, based on my current skills, the amount of time it takes for me to dress a deer, for example, this is kind of the base example. Smaller and larger animals take varying degrees amounts of time, but say we were going for a deer, it would take 67 minutes to dress it, and 79 to skin it, 79 to harvest, and so on and so on and so on. Now, a nice feature as well, which is worth pointing out, this mod is indeed compatible with Skyrim, if you're running Skyrim, and whenever you do any of these actions here, it does actually increase your Wayfarer skill slightly. So if we go to this, here we go, where is our Wayfarer skill? Here it is, over at 23. So if you're running something like Frostfall as well, which increases Wayfarer skill when you do things like light fires and stuff, this will integrate perfectly. This mod is also fully compatible with Frostfall, in case you were wondering. There is one small issue though, and it's to do with the animations. As you noticed when I was dressing the animal just now, it played a little animation where she knelt over and basically got to work. As you know, Frostfall does have its own animations as well. If you were to stand next to a fire when you're cold, your character starts to warm themselves up. Now, if I were to do that around, say, here, start trying to dress the animal while my character was cold, Frostfall would start trying to do its cold animations while you're doing that. And that, the mod maker does make clear in the README for this mod, that can cause some conflicts and can cause some glitchiness, so that is something to bear in mind. Otherwise, it is fully compatible. It can also cause some script overloading issues and things like that. I have not encountered anything like that so far, but again, it's something worth bearing in mind. But the mod maker themselves does actually use Frostfall along with Hunterborn, so you should expect it to be largely compatible. Anyway, so we fluffed up our dressing and skinning of the elk. Mainly because our skill's rubbish, and also because we don't really have the correct tools for it at the minute. You can create a hunting knife, for example, which allows you to get this done much quicker and much better. How do you get yourself a hunting knife? Well, there's an option in the MCM menu to allow you to buy them from vendors, but you can also make one yourself. Much like Frostfall's crafting menu, you can actually have a crafting menu. You have a crafting menu in this mod as well. Called Scrimshaw here. So if we do this, as you can see, we now have some crafting options. A bow and hunting knife, for example. This is probably the base hunting knife. You can make others made out of iron and steel and so on and so forth. This is the basic bone hunting knife, and your crafting ability will increase along with your hunting skills as well, so that's something worth bearing in mind. But yeah, had we a large animal bone, we could craft ourselves a bone hunting knife, which would make our job a little easier. Sadly, we don't have a large animal bone. Now, it's also worth bearing in mind as well, actually, that if you're playing an Argonian or a Khajiit character, your character's claws will actually substitute as a hunting knife, which is a nice little touch, actually. But they will substitute for a hunting knife, so Khajiits and Argonians will actually have an easier time doing this sort of stuff. So there we go, and you can also do things like craft crude bow and arrows, and you have all sorts of things over here on the misc menu as well. Bits of bone, used for various different, crafting ingredients and things like that. A cache marker, which is another feature of the mod if you choose to enable it. Unfortunately, I don't have a large animal bone to be able to craft this and show you right now, but what this does is you create a carved bone, sort of roughly like this. You can put it on the floor, activate it, and it will basically turn into a small rock, which you can use as a container. I think the general gist of it is that it allows you to create these sort of dead drops and hidden caches for yourself littered across the wilderness, with the rock or whatever marking the location of the buried treasure, if you like. So that's a pretty cool little touch that you can use if you want to. You also have these engraved bones here, like say an engraved bone of Hircine, Julianos, and Kinnereth. And these are, well, they function a bit like portable shrines in a way. You can use one to give yourself a blessing from the god in question. However, it's worth bearing in mind that the blessing seems to be a little bit random, I think. And also, the bone will only work under certain conditions. Sometimes it won't work at all, but for example, if I wanted to use this bone of Kinnereth, I'd probably have to be in the wilds to actually use it. If I was in a city, it probably wouldn't work. So that's something to bear in mind, but they are a nice little addition. So there you go, that's how that works. Now let's get back to knocking about with this elk. So let's try and harvest some ingredients, see if we can get an animal bone or something we can use to craft something with. There we go, that was quite successful. We've got a pair of antlers and a pair of large animal bones. So why don't we do a bit of scrimshaw? Let's make ourselves a cache marker, and let's get ourselves an engraved bone of Kinnereth. Now, let's see, the last time I tried this, I got a sort of small buff to my stats or whatever, but apparently you can also cure diseases and things. Now, since Bertha is suffering from ataxia, this wouldn't be a bad time to try it out, so let's give it a go. All of your thoughts focus on the deity crudely represented by the graven bone icon, but no enlightenment comes. The idol, its purpose unfulfilled, seems to lose some of its ivory luster. So nothing happened, basically. We didn't luck out, and the gods weren't listening to us, and now this bone has become drained. Which means, presumably, we need to make another one. We have one more animal bone, though, but I'm going to use it to make ourselves a cache marker, which... I think I already did that. There we go. So let's give that a go. If we drop that and then activate it, bear with me a second, viewers. If we crouch activate it, there we go. It creates a hunter's cache marked by this rock here, which we can put things in. So let's put something in it. Let's make an alcohol stash. Why not? There we go. So we've stored all our booze underneath this rock. So that's a nice little feature as well. So anyway, let's see if we can get some meat from this. Let's butcher some meat, which will probably take quite a long time. Finish butchering one section of the carcass, it will take more time to butcher the rest. So yeah, you may have to do this multiple times to get the amount of meat you want. However, as you can see, I got a lot for that. 22. Let's have a look. Yeah, venison elk, 22. So as you can see, that was a lot of meat we just got from that elk. As you should expect, an elk's a big animal. You could feed a lot of people with that thing. You can also, but if that's a bit much for you, if you can go into the mod configuration menu and you can tweak this a bit. For example, considering how much more difficult it is now to get your hands on decent pelts, you can actually try and balance that gameplay-wise by increasing the actual value that pelts are towards vendors. So if you wanted a character who basically just went around and made their living in the world by hunting and selling the pelts, you could do that, because you could change the value of the pelts. Here, I've currently got them set to default, but you could change them to valuable or treasured, depending on how much time you're willing to invest in, hunting and stuff. You could also change the yield of materials, like bones and things. And you can also change the yield of meat that you get from an animal. So you can have single cut, conservative, generous, realistic, and custom. So there you go. I've currently got it set to generous, which is the default, I believe. And here, like I said, you can change it so the knives at merchants are, you know, none at all, as this is the default, rare, uncommon, common, abundant, and ubiquitous. So that's something worth bearing in mind. The MCM menu on the whole, by the way, is pretty darn good. It has lots and lots of nice configuration options, including which types of animals you can use the Hunterborn sort of skills and stuff on, how long it you know, whether or not it takes time to do certain actions, all sorts of tweaks here, like you can change the weight of meat so it is realistically more heavy, remove the manual loot option from the menu completely, present oversized stashing, so as it points out here at the bottom, you can't put bear carcasses in barrels because that would be ridiculous. And all that sort of thing. Prevent the use in combat, require a cookbook for obscure recipes, require a hunting knife to actually do any craft, you know, any hunter crafting and stuff at all, and that sort of thing. Use the animations. You may decide you want to disable the animations if it's conflicting quite a bit with Frostfall, for example. So there's that. You can also has a full selection of different available hotkeys for different abilities, as well as the actions you can use on animals. And you can hide the abilities from your spellbook, and hide the menu completely if you want to. So, if you want to rely solely on hotkeys, then you can do that. So, and here obviously the stats, showing our current stats. You can reset your experience to whatever level you feel is appropriate. Say if you're playing a character who's been a hunter type character for a while, and you've only just installed this mod, you can actually set your experience to an appropriate level to fit with your character, because it would be a bit silly really, wouldn't it, if you were role-playing an expert hunter, only just installed this mod and suddenly your expert hunter was incapable of even skinning a pelt properly, like Bertha here. So that's worth bearing in mind too. It also has a monster hunter utility as well, which basically allows crafting and sort of hunting options for various types of monster. So for example, choruses, with this enabled now, provide venom, chitin, eggs, and meat. Spiders provide venom, eggs, and meat. Trolls can be skinned, butchered, their blood extracted, their fat, eyes, and hearts can be harvested. And same for werewolves and dragons as well. For those of you who thought it was a bit odd how you could just sort of, in the blink of an eye, grab all the dragon's bones and scales. Now you can change it so that that's no longer the case. I imagine, although I've not tried it yet, it probably takes quite a while to skin and bone a dragon, because it takes long enough with this elk at my skill level. I can't imagine how long it would take to do with a dragon. Possibly an entire day. I would be curious to find out. You also have an option here which is corporeal dragons, which allows you to harvest things like blood, eyes, hearts, and meat from the dragons. So if you want dragon burgers, you can have them. There are also a bunch of compatibility options. The mod does automatically detect which mods you do have installed. For example, it automatically detected that I do have Skyrim installed, and then therefore enabled these compatibility options for it. It also automatically detects realistic needs and diseases, so it is compatible with that, in case you were wondering. All the meat you harvest from these animals and so on and so forth will be compatible with realistic needs and diseases. It will therefore count as raw meat and need to be cooked. So it also it would appear to have a compatibility option for Requiem, if that's your bag, and all the DLCs as well. So all this is worth bearing in mind. It also has compatibility options for custom meats, textures, and it has an add taxonomy ability to your spellbook, and basically what that allows you to do is to classify, as it says here, classify animals that Hunterborn doesn't recognize. So if you're using a mod like I am, for example, like immersive creatures, and Hunterborn isn't recognizing a certain type of wolf or something, like plague wolves or whatever, then you can use the taxonomy ability to classify that creature for the game, allowing you to therefore use Hunterborn, and Hunterborn will treat that as whatever you've classified it as. So that's also pretty darn useful, because that otherwise would have been a bit of an issue. I think I would have raised the compatibility with creature mods. Now this isn't perfect, but it certainly does solve a lot of potential problems people have, may have. Although it's probably worth having a look out for compatibility patches as well while you're at it. But this is a nice little workaround or stopgap, if you like. So there you go. That's the MCM menu, and we can finish butchering the meat if we want to. I don't think we're going to. They've got more than enough, I think, by now. So now we can finally dispose of the corpse. Naturally, you could just leave it there if you wanted to, but I like that it's added a dispose option, simply because disposing of corpses allows you to prevent save game bloating, basically. So that's always welcome. In fact, quite frankly, I miss the ability to dispose of corpses since Morrowind, because that was always a good way of preventing save game bloating. Now, obviously, generally speaking, cell respawning should solve that, but just to be on the safe side, it's nice that you can do that. So there you go. Now, there are a couple of other things. For example, there is the foraging ability. If you need to... Basically what this allows you to do is... Let's read the actual description for it. Search the surrounding area for edible plants and useful materials. Can only be used outdoors, obviously. Foraging around someone's kitchen isn't going to work. So let's give that a go. Now, as you can see, like the other options, the other actions we could have taken, it did take some time. It's now early evening by the looks of things. Did we find anything, though? I didn't manage to check just now, I'm afraid. Let's see. It doesn't... we managed to find a sharp rock by the looks of things, which we could probably use for crafting. So there you go. That wasn't much of a great find, though, and obviously, and foraging, like the other things like butchering and skinning, you become more competent at it as you do it more, as your foraging skill increases. So again, you may find yourself being completely incompetent to begin with, but that's just because your character skill is not very good at it. So there you go. So my overall opinion on Hunterborn, pretty solid, I think, in my opinion. I had wondered with this mod, and one of the reasons I'd held off actually bothering to install it in the first place for quite some time was that I had this worry that it would actually make the game just more frustrating. Sometimes you get realism mods that do add some realism, but from a gameplay perspective, they just aren't much fun. But Hunterborn, I'm fairly happy to say it's not the case with this mod. It's very much like Frostfall, which was another mod that initially I thought, is this just going to make the game more tedious and irritating? No. Both the creators of Frostfall and Hunterborn seem to recognise the fact that this is ultimately a game we're playing, and it needs to be fun. And Hunterborn is a fun mod. It doesn't just create sort of barriers to being able to do what you want, like harvest pelts and things like that. It manages to make the whole action of sort of hunting and skinning and stuff like that fun. And even with all the features it adds by itself, that would have impressed me to no end. But the fact that it has a sort of progression system built into it as well, with your own skill levels, and the additional sort of compatibility with other mods like Skyrim, whereby it contributes to your Wayfarer skill, I think makes it something incredibly special. It adds a heck of a lot to the game. For those who really are into immersion and role-playing, obviously this mod almost, for me, seems like a must-have. Even if your character's not really that into hunting, it just feels like something I would probably struggle to play without in the future. Now, I suppose the one caveat, obviously, is that some of the compatibility issues, like the glitchy animations when it comes to, Frostfall and that sort of thing, but on the whole it seems fairly stable, and it's very easy to install and all that sort of thing. So on the whole, I'd say I pretty solidly recommend it, and I think I will be adding this to my mods list for my Let's Play. So those were the two mods for today. That was Hunterborn and Equipping Overhaul, two mods which I think I'll probably be hanging on to for the foreseeable future. Both these mods, it is worth pointing out as well that they do both require SKSE and SkyUI in order to work, because you need the mod compatibility menu functionality, and you need the additional scripting possibilities that are provided with SKSE. So that's something to bear in mind as well. If you don't already have those installed, you will need to install them if you want to use these mods. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this mod review episode, the first of hopefully many to come. Obviously, suggestions for future mods I could review are welcome, in addition to suggestions on how I could improve these reviews, they're also welcome too. So feel free to leave any suggestions down in the comments, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you very much for watching. And for now, I think I'll leave Bertha standing here, looking very intently at that blank piece of paper she's holding that's presumably supposed to be a map. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye for now.